I'd like to start out with a hypothetical for you. I'd like to talk to you about Newton. Newton is a personal tutor. He's might be a retired professor. He's deeply knowledgeable, infinitely patient, ready to guide your students at any hour of the day. He's not driven by salary demands or physical limitations. He can be everywhere at once. He also knows the class professors, all their work. He's available to answer any questions students might have day or night. Sometimes he gets things wrong, but he's only human. Would you welcome Newton into your school?
See some good nods there.
Yeah. I think probably. Now, imagine Newton is no longer Newton, but he's AI. AI can do most of what Newton is talking about, but we have a situation where 42% of people are believing that Newton should be banned from the classroom. What we're going to talk about today is some of these strategic questions. Where does AI fit in? Should it be there? Shouldn't it be there? How should it be in? And how can you answer some of these questions? I think it's a fun talk, and actually it's something I'm truly fascinated with because AI is changing so many things in so many ways.
Okay. Right. And that's really the dilemma, right? There's different people that have different opinions about AI. It's such a new technology, and it's disrupting education in part because the students are using it, because it's accessible, it's free for the most part. And so we have to change our ways. So there's different opinions about AI doing good, AI being a problem, hence the opinions about banning AI from schools in some cases restricting it, and so on. One thing that we know for sure is that AI is not going away. It's going to be there. Not only is it going to be there, but it's going to improve in capacity and skill. And people are going to get more and more used to it around them. So it's going to be used more. So the question is, the strategic decision is about, what do you do with it? If your opinion is that it's bad, then most people will say, well, those in those camps will say, well, it's cheating, leave it outside of the classroom. They don't provide any guidance on how to use it because it's not supposed to be there anyway. And of course, they don't train the professors on it because you don't want to encourage the practice. And those that are on the camp of, well, let's use it, let's figure it out. Well, they'll develop practices where it's expected to use AI. AI is inside the classroom and outside. It's used equally well. The teachers are trained how to use AI. And there's some choices about whether or not you want AI involved in everything or in some things inside the classroom. And of course, the professor needs to be trained, so because it's integrated. All right. So here are the two choices. You can, because the AI is going to be there, it's ubiquitous, right? You can wait and see what happens as a strategic decision maker in the institution. Or you can decide to lead and run with it and try to make it your own, so you have more control over it. And the strategic challenges are varied. You've checkboxed a couple of them, some of them, and we explored some of the more dominant one. You have the framework challenge, like how do you actually integrate that as inside the institution in a proper way? How do you leverage AI as a tutor? How do you teach the professors the AI? How is it going to be applied in research correctly to derive good outcomes? And AI, how do you match up what's going on in the real world, like in the world of work, for example, especially if you're a higher education institution? How do you figure out to line up with how the adoption goes on in the private sector and in the public sector and so on? If you wait and see, most of the solutions, or what happens when they wait and see, is very disjointed processes, and you wait for people to figure things out for themselves. It's not very practical. But if you lead, then you have a directed, purposeful integration of AI in the institution, and now you're leading the way and how the students are using it, how the professors are using it. You figure out the ethics, you figure out all the different components that are important for a proper use of AI, a tool that is very, very new to us. Next slide. Here's an amazing integration. This is brand new from 3 weeks ago. Khan Academy had a plan very early. They've always been ahead of the wave. If you're familiar with it, it's an online platform that educates 150 million users in 190 countries, a lot of languages. And it's online learning. It started off using YouTube videos, and now it's a much more integrated platform as a software as a service. And they integrated what they call Canmigo.ai, so an AI that does math into their system, and it's using ChatGPT 4.0. This is a demo. I'm gonna show that in a minute. And 4.0, ChatGPT 4.0 is able to process images, videos, text, and audio. It's able to interact. So I'll be able to show that, but I think we have a hand raised, so that's great. Let's take the question, Shakradhar. Sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry. It's a mouthful anyway. All this is fine. I'm ready to digest anything that AI comes up with. My challenge for us is, what are we educating the next generation for? And what is the assumption about the environment the next generation will be facing with? 20 years from now, we could be looking at all the countries dropping nuclear weapons on each other, and none of this education is of any consequence. Or there's no water on the planet to drink, potable water, or the soil is so far damaged that we can't grow crops. Now, given that environment, are we allowing our next generation to adapt to that? And that could be one goal for what we're educating the next generation for. Because I think this conversation is very erudite, and I trust Bryan from a number of years, so I'm fine with that. But I'm always confused with what are we doing this for, and that what question, or why are we doing that? That seems to get relegated, and people forget, to the extent that we are dehumanizing ourselves and the next generations as well. Thank you for hearing me out.
Let me take on the question, since I am a futurist, so I think about the future a lot. That is part of my profession. If you're doing any kind of scenario planning, what you're trying to do is establish a future that is interesting for us. So the scenarios of dystopia and catastrophe is undesirable. We want to navigate away from that. So that's baked in any kind of strategic decision-making process, especially regarding AI. So you have to think about what the future is. In this particular talk, I don't think we'll have time to think about so far ahead as 20 years. I think we have to think about the next 2 years. And in the next 2 years, we'll assume that we can still grow crops, and people are still alive and moving ahead, with in mind protecting the environment and so on. We have to think about the need now to educate students and professors about the ethical and effective use of AI, because it is present. It's ever present. And we're at a juncture where the education system is in heavy disruption. Therefore, we have to deal with the now with an eye into the future. I hope that's going to be enough for now as an answer. We'll deal more with the education in the classroom concepts a little bit during the presentation. Arti?
Yes, thank you, Sylvain. And I quite agree with what Dr. Chakradhar said. And not to digress, but it's interesting to note that when ChatGPT started, it started out with, I think, about 72% efficiency. And when people started loading it up, it went down to about 37%. So it's interesting to keep this also in focus while we are training teachers or trying to evaluate the relevance and efficacy of AI in the classroom, that at the end of the day, it is only an accessory to our intention, what AI is or what all technology stands to be. So I just wanted to make that input. Thank you.
So
That's an excellent point.
let me make a
Go ahead.
point. So actually, the big message of the presentation today is about proactively planning for the future, to look at what you believe is happening and do stuff about it. And what we'll do is present ways to come out of that, and we'll see what comes out. And I think you'll see some interesting stuff coming up. Let's start with your video. I think this is cool. Let's see if it works like used to.
Hi, my name is Sal Khan. I'm the founder of Khan Academy, and I'm also the author of a new book about artificial intelligence in education called Brave New Words. And OpenAI invited myself and my son Imran here to try out some of their new technology. And so we're curious about how good it might be at tutoring someone in math on Khan Academy. So let's get it started. It's loading up. All right, make sure it can see our screen.
Actually, in this format,
Hello there. I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
Really,
Remember the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
You're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct. Now that you've identified all the sides relative to angle alpha, do you remember the formula for finding the sine of an angle in a right triangle?
Yeah, I know that the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse.
Perfect. That's absolutely right. Now, can you apply that formula to find side alpha in the triangle using the lengths of the sides that we've identified?
Okay, so, I mean, you told me that 7, this side BC, is the opposite side. And then you said that the hypotenuse is the longest side, so that would be this side AB, which is 25. So would the answer be 7 over 25?
Excellent work. That's correct. Sine alpha equals 7 over 25. You did a great job identifying the sides and using the sine formula. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is...
Let's skip it. Thank you, Bryan. So, like I just wrote in the chat, typically this is a large language model, like ChatGPT 4.0. One of its worst tasks is doing math, and it's able to do math quite well, even though it's a simple problem. So if you give it something that's more language related or image related, it's actually going to perform even better. And this is very impressive. This is new generation AI. It's ready for tutoring. It's ready for all sorts of tasks inside a inside a classroom. We're going to identify some of these opportunities during the presentation. Now, no, you're too far ahead. Thank you. So AI can be used also for administrative duties. Like if you are a professor or a teacher, you know there's a lot of the time spent is admin. So you can use AI because it's mostly text. You can use AI to shave time off your duties, about 13 hours a week, according to McKinsey and the World Economic Forum, with modern AI. And AI, like you could see in the presentation, it can be a personalized practice, like the person was practicing, and also it can provide a personalized interactive learning experience. And according to research by Tech Report and EdTech, AI can help 73% of students understand material better because of the interaction. It's always available 24/7. And 50% of students said AI provides a better learning experience for personalized practice. And we've built some AI tutors of various forms, like I have on the side with our institution. And we've played around with it quite a bit, and it's quite fantastic. And some of those duties, you can do a lot with it. And just a last report for statistics, Aquarius AI noted in this report that AI provides 47% more involvement, less dropout, and also higher test scores in general. And that's not the only report where I saw these stats in. Next slide. So just to further introduce myself, since we were just chatting earlier, my name is Sylvain Rochon. I'm a futurist and the author of Engineering Paradise. Are you ready? It's a book about how you make a better world using technology, including artificial intelligence. So I think the people that intervened a bit earlier with their questions would like where I go with this book, because it's not only about AI, it's about where we're going in general as a civilization, students, and the future of work and so on. I'm a tech executive for about 20 years. I've been in education for 20 years as well. And I've been most of this time practicing strategic planning. And I've focused on AI, in particular the last 8 to 10 years, where the focus was almost entirely on AI. And I'm recently working with universities on AI strategy and AI implementations. And my main love right now, my main project is this particular use case. We're still working on it. It's a month-long process to establish something like this. This is a law university in India, where the goal was to unshackle the silos of information where knowledge is accumulated. They wanted to develop human AI partnerships, so to work with integrated AI, like you remember that strategic choice earlier, and also provide university with new monetization methods. That was one of the goals from the Vice Chancellor. So I came in and to create a strategy and also to enable the implementation, and created a system where there's a rotating wheel of knowledge that comes in, iteration, and new generation of new knowledge that is from analysis by AI from the multiple silos that are no longer in silos. So they are, all the data is living in under one roof in categories, but can be extracted by university or stakeholders in a way that's never been done before. So easy to access, quantity and quality of knowledge because of the curation by professors, correlation that could never have been thought of before, and the university has a foresight faculty that's been integrated to peer into the future to see how they can do better with the future and guide the future in a certain way. So very exciting strategic work there. And generally speaking, if I can have the next slide, Bryan. Thank you. Generally speaking, I've been involved in different strategic decisions over multiple universities, integration of AI, considering ethical implications in the classroom, in some cases with ages between the 5 and 7 years old, so pretty young, in Sierra Leone, which has special implications. The personalized learning experience, the effective use by prof, barriers to adoption. For those of you who are working with universities, faculty typically doesn't like change. if they know their own tools and they're familiar with it. AI, there's a way to get them on board with AI and have them hyper effective, because it's a data analysis tool. And the solutions that were came up with are on the right. There's a bunch of solutions based on the solution. So I've had a lot of experience with these, and all of them have been proven to be most effective with a hands-on approach, because AI is so easy to just get on board with and start prompting and do different things. It's easy to illustrate the advantage of it. If I knew Bryan back when I started these projects, I would have done a lot of it using AI sprints. Because that's a hands-on procedural approach that I learned thanks to Bryan here, and he'll explain to you what a sprint is a bit later.
Okay, I'm Bryan. I see a lot of friendly faces here. It makes me happy. I see people I know from a long time. So part of my background is duplication, but let me just tell you who I am. I'm an entrepreneur by heart and soul. I've done 11 companies in 6 different countries. About 10 years ago, someone asked me if I'd like to teach a course, and I said, who in God's name wants to teach? I taught a course and I actually loved it. I found my mission in life, and I've moved over to a mission, which is to coach, train 1 million innovators by 2027. I'm using AI quite actively to scale the teaching process, to improve the teaching process and make it more active. Some of the things I've done is I've written a book. We're doing a version 2.0 of the book, which is all about how to integrate AI in the innovation process. I do research on AI, and I also work with around 100 partners running courses and AI sprints. First and foremost, though, I'm a practitioner. I like to see results. And one of the things that sort of moved me over on the table on the use of AI was bringing AI into my courses on innovation. I end all my courses with pitches. And for the most part, that's a really hard part of the course. Students are nervous and they struggle to get the content across. They lack the confidence and expertise. They're terrified of talking. They're scared of getting feedback, and they don't even know what feedback they should be asking for when they talk to people. And typically what I saw at these courses, even when I trained them how to pitch, was 40% of the pitches failed. And a failure for me is they didn't communicate what they needed to communicate in a way that people remembered. The solution I put into place was to bring AI into the courses I was running. I started out with an easier pitch creation process. We used an AI-powered pitch template, sort of fill in the blanks like Mad Libs when you were a kid. Say this, say this, say this, and it makes a first version of the pitch. Then people work on updating that. And then we have another tool, which actually, this is for me is the coolest tool, is it actually takes a pitch and it reviews the pitch. It gives it a score, and it gives you criteria to improve the pitch in 14 different areas. And it even rewrites part of the pitch. What we've seen in practice is an immediate change in results. We went from a 40% failure rate on the presentations to just about a 5% failure rate. Now, for some of you, you'd say, oh, that's not that big a deal. But for a professor who has to listen to these presentations, 40% failure is a long time to listen to bad talks. More importantly, there's a long-term impact with the students. They're more confident, they have better pitching skills, and they can do it without the AI better. But there's something important here. Before we brought it into the classroom, approximately 70% of my students were using AI already. They were still failing at a 40% rate. It's not the AI that was the solution. It's the teaching with AI that was the solution. Now, what I'd like to do, challenge you to do, is while you're going through these talks, talk about your successes, failures with AI, share your answers in the chat. We'll see how things go. Back over to you, Sylvain.
Thank you. When we were preparing this, we kept thinking about, we're old enough to remember the calculator problem. Like, if you remember, most of you are my age, maybe slightly younger or slightly older, but in the 90s, professors or profs were screaming about having the calculator in the classroom being a problem because they were available, they were cheap, and the students started using it instead of using the arithmetics in hand, doing the additions and subtractions on hand. And there was a big discussion whether or not calculators should be allowed in the school at all, because they were afraid that people would lose the capacity to do math by hand and they would depend on the calculator. So we've been there before. And how it revolved over time, since you're in the system, very simply, is like most of the time, it's a tool you can use all the time. But when the math prof wants you to understand how to do things mechanically step by step, they'd say, okay, put your calculator aside. Now we're training like by hand and how this all works. And you go through the problem and students learn that way. Now, AI is basically the same problem. We're asking ourselves, well, should it be in? Should it be out? Should it be banned? How do you do with it? So in the classroom, what you will find is that because we can't avoid it, it is all over the workplace, just like the calculator was. An engineering firm, an administrative outfit, a legal firm, all these companies, they're going to expect their employees to use AI because it improves efficiency if they know how to use it. It also can improve the quality of work, and it's embedded in the culture. It's already starting now in many industries. So institutions have to teach the students how to properly use AI because the employers are expecting it. AI is not going to replace people. People who use AI well are going to replace people who don't. And that is from Andrew Nunn, an AI researcher, and it's quite accurate. We are essentially in the education space preparing students for the real world. When they graduate in, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you can't expect them not to use AI. So better teach them how to use it well and use it with ethics, be able to check, have critical thinking skills, because AI is an assistant. It doesn't do the work for you. It can prep, can do a lot of things, but you're responsible for the output. So it's important to include AI in what we do.
What I'd like to do is take a step back for just a second, because you know what? We all think about these amazing things that AI can do, but isn't there someplace that human beings do better than AI? Aren't human beings more creative? Aren't human beings more decisive? Aren't they able to do lots of things better? And actually, one of the things that I've been doing in my research is looking at the question of creativity. And maybe there's a place that, AI is not going to help out much. The research I ran is I took 260 business school students submitting an idea for a challenge as part of a job application. I was hiring interns to do some work. And basically that challenge comes out of some research that's been run. It's in different schools. Some of you might know of Ethan Mullick, but there's also Leonard Menke from my old school, Cornell. And basically it is a challenge which they've tested many different ways. So design a physical product that costs less than $50 and would be suitable for university students. And we can measure those solutions on a couple metrics. One is purchase intention and novelty. So there's a question about what is creativity. Creativity in this context is something which is meaningful and something which is unique. What we did in our testing is we tested students working alone. We tested students working with AI, no training. We had students with a clear definition of a target working with AI. And we had students working with a clear definition of target and what I would call smart AI. The last version, which is the smart AI group, got access to a tool. In fact, it's a tool that you'll be able to access after this event. We have an innovation toolkit. You can select the method. You select an innovation target. You press insights and you'll get ideas. So basically decide on an innovation challenge you want, press a button, and out will pop tons and tons and tons of ideas to your challenge. The question that comes up is those ideas which are generated, are there any good? So what we had in this study is we had 5,402 ideas, 740 from humans, and 4,600 from the AI. Essentially, there's three ways that you could look at the results. And what we have is, in terms of levels, we have the first one, which human beings working by themselves, human beings getting access to AI. See if this works. Yes. And we have human beings with a target. And then we have our third group, which is what I'll call smart AI. What we can do is we can measure the quality of ideas generated. And what you'll see is that there's a difference. Because the numbers are large, they're statistically significant, but from all practical points of view, they're the same. People working with and without AI are generating the same quality of ideas on average. A second way that you can look at the quality of ideas generated is how much diversity is there in ideas. If AI pumps back always the same thing, or human beings always pump back the same thing, you would say, oh, that's not very useful. There is a tool called cosine similarity, which measures the similarity of a statement or an idea. And essentially what you look at is how similar ideas are generated by the different things. The way it works is you take a statement, for example, this is a happy person, and this is a very happy person. Those two are pretty similar. If you had ideas that were quite similar, you'd say they're very similar. It's like a correlation. Really similar is 1, really different is 0. So what you want to do is you want to get ideas which are different. Now, in this case, what we see, human beings are the winners. Yes, thank God for human beings. Human beings, and actually it gets worse and worse the more that you use AI. So we'd say, actually, all things considered, maybe this is a place in the world that AI is not going to help. So ideas are the same as quality. Human beings develop more diversity. But we have a big question. And that question is, do you really want 5,000 ideas to do anything? So what we did is we created a rating scale where we rated the top ideas. And we drew in a line here and we said, how many ideas are above a certain level? And what's the frequency by method? So in fact, we have 5,000 ideas. We have 250 that are top. Here's where the numbers pop in. So what we see is human beings working by themselves. We're generating one top idea per 100. Human beings working with AI, but not getting any training, for 1.5. When they're helping with targets, they're getting a little bit better. But what we see down here is when we're looking at using AI in a smart way, we get different results. Now, I want to make these numbers really clear because there's something important here. Generating ideas with AI is really, really simple. You can generate 1,000 pages in the next 10 minutes. What we're not talking about here is the number of ideas. We're talking about the frequency and the hit rate of top ideas. So for 100 ideas, how many top ideas do you generate? And what you're looking at is we see a dramatic increase when you're using AI in a smart way, somewhere between 4 and 7 times more top ideas. Here, AI alone is not the solution. Just giving the students AI didn't make them better. Where they got better is when they had domain expertise and they put AI as part of the solution. So the future for me is not about AI versus humans. It's about AI and humans collaborating, with AIs being able to lead humans being able to lead the process smart. Education needs to teach students how to be smart so they can use AI in a smart way.
And if you look at just statistics of usage of AI today, it's a little disturbing, at least to me, because maybe I'm deep in AI, so I'm expecting different results. But we're looking at 68% of students that say they have knowledge of generative AI, so they know what it does. Basically, a higher percentage of them use it. That means that some of them they use it without knowing how it works or what it does exactly. Only 30% of professors have good knowledge of generative AI, and 22% of deans, because they're more administrative tasks, presumably. Some other statistics of note is that up to 45% of professors feel unprepared to integrate AI tools for a variety of reasons. And 75% of students would use AI even if it would be restricted in high education scenarios, because it saves them a massive amount of time, and they can pretty easily try to camouflage the use of the AI and kind of wiggle their way past regulation. Just go back another second there, Bryan, if you would. I'd like to just take a sense of this, especially about the knowledge. There's a major gap there in understanding generative AI. This is one of the most powerful tools we have right now as educators and as students. And the professors, especially, they really have a hard time because they have their own processes, their own ways. There's resistance in using something different. They don't want to change. And just because the students say they know AI, or the professor for that matter, doesn't mean that they actually know. These are opinions. They were not tested in the survey. So there's a big gap. There's something we have to do. Now we'll go on, please. So without guidance, they will use AI anyway, especially the students. Without your guidance as professors and as deans, they'll have some problems with bias, hallucinations, and legal issues. Because there's some number of cases where plagiarism was a problem, not because the students thought the output was a copy, because AI produced something that was a copy, and that was propagated. And there's different cases like that. So bad use of AI causes all sorts of problems. So the onus is on us to teach the right way, and not only the right way to use the AI, we have to understand which AI to use for which job. Everybody talks about ChatGPT. That's great. That's a large language model. It deals with text. Now it deals with images and some other things at the same time. It's called multimodal now, same as Google's Gemini, the newest versions. But if you want to do like the most amazing pictures, you use Midjourney. If you want to do quick presentations, you can use Gamma. If you want to do music, it's Suno. There's a new one, I forget its name now. It's a short name that can do videos for free. That's for video. And big tech like Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Apple, they all integrate different AIs in different ways into their productivity tools now to do different things. And these are also different because they're a mixed match of different AI skill sets. So you have to understand the different tools. And on top of that, thank you, Bryan, there is the peril we mentioned about not knowing how to use AI is shown in these graphs. This is a study by Harvard Business and Associates. On the left, it's a good side. I would say it's like it kind of levels the playing field. If you try to score a task, the performance and creativity of a solution is actually increased for the masses, so it kind of balances out. If you're using AI, like the blue bar, if you're a bottom half of skilled participants or top half of skilled participants using AI, it balances things out. That's good, especially if the employee or the student is a bit like low on the skill scale. On the right side, you see the over-reliance of AI and how it becomes an issue. So if it's a task outside of the LLM skill set, the ChatGPT, for example, the control condition is humans. If you use the AI, well, it's not very good at it, so the correctness is going to be low. But you can look at the red bar. The red bar shows that a person, this is from the statistics from this study, a person using the generative AI and overseeing actually gets worse results than using the AI on its own, because people are just terrible at using it. There's this gap, this training that has to happen on effective use of the AI. Thank you. As a leader of an institution, This means you can't make good decisions about AI without having used it, without understanding it, without knowing all this stuff. Because you have to build a strategy for the institution. AI is not hard to learn, but it's difficult to master, to do really, really well. And we can cite other studies that actually show this from McKinsey and others. It has basic principles. You have to know how to prompt. You have to know which AI to select, when to use AI, when to not use it is important. You got to cover the ethics, the misuse, the misusage, the hallucinations that can occur in different situations. You have to deal with frequent AI updates because they keep changing them and they keep adding different things. And sometimes it's going to give you a different answer than the next day and so on. It's effectively an assistant that needs supervision, but an expert supervision, not just somebody that decides to use it and haphazardly. 45% of teachers feel unprepared. We told you that before. And 65% want training. They want to know. They're willing, if you approach them well, they will learn how to be skillful at AI, at using AI.
So I have a proposal for you. So I focus on one thing. I use AI in practice. I use AI for innovation. There are a lot of strategic questions in the area of AI for education. And I think an amazing opportunity for many of you would be to run an AI sprint to explore the future of education with AI and some strategic. The first question that comes up is, how do you tackle tough strategic questions like those that we saw at the beginning of the talk today? The answer there is pretty simple. You get people to work on it, and you get people to work on them together. A very good way to get people working on them is to ask them to work in a sprint. What's a sprint? A sprint is typically, the origin here is from a guy named Jake Knapp. He did it at Google Ventures. Typically, it's run over 5 days. Day one, you figure out what you want to do, your problem, you define your challenge. Day 3, you make ideas. Day 4, you decide on those. And day 5, you prototype and test them out. A sprint works for a couple really simple reasons. The first, because it forces you to focus. How many times do you actually really sit down and think hard about a problem? 2 days around understanding and defining the challenge you're working on is an important step. Second, a sprint is a powerful way to generate lots of ideas. Third, it's a powerful way to make real decisions and decide where you're going. Now, a sprint is also cool because they're really easy to run. All you need really to do is you need to figure out how long your sprint's going to be. It can be 5 days, it can be 2 days, it can be 1 day, it can be 2 hours. It doesn't matter. You need to figure out your deliverables, and you need to figure out the process to ensure those deliverables. What's the work you're going to do, and how are you going to make decisions? Equally important is almost anybody can lead a sprint, and they're flexible. And for those of you who are concerned, even if you do it wrong, even if you do a bad sprint, you will typically get positive results because you get people working together. And they're incredibly well documented. If you fill out our evaluation form, you'll get a link to 35 links, a bunch of books, and a lot of stuff around how do you run a sprint. It is probably the most documented thing in innovation. So what we're looking at here is we've done work running sprints, and we do work running sprints with AI, and we've changed around the process. We've created a toolkit, like that toolkit you saw for building ideas. We have tools that are there to define a challenge. We have tools to communicate and check, and we have tools to improve and tools to pitch. And we put all those together in a sprint. And effectively what we've done is we take the sprint and put on steroids. We start out with tools to do market assessment, persona testing, define a clear objective. One of the things that I think is really cool about AI is the ability to reframe problems. If you solve the wrong problem, you're going to get the wrong solution. AI is a really smart way to get feedback on the problem. We have ideation, mechanical creativity. What we saw before was generating thousands of ideas in a short period of time. You can also do idea review with AI. You can do idea merging. You can use AI to clarify your ideas, to test the ideas, to synthetic testing. You can use AI to do high fidelity prototypes, risk analysis, and lastly is to put together business models where things work together. What we're able to do is through the use of AI, we're able to change around a 5-day process to a 2.5-day process. We spend some time preparing things in advance. Day 1, we define the challenge, build some ideas. Day 2, we decide and test out those ideas. Then we give you a break. Soak time, we'll call that. Talk to experts, talk to people outside the building. And then a final day, which is action-oriented. Using these types of results, this type of system, we get twice the results of a typical sprint in half the time. Our value add in the process is quite simply, we start out with an AI for education assessment to allow you to benchmark things. We define strategic questions and move them into sprintable challenges. That takes domain expertise and sprint expertise. We have our toolkit to build, evaluate, and check ideas. For soaking, getting out, we bring in experts to help evaluate, and we run a call to action session at the end. Now, for those of you who are skeptical, I'm going to give you a link. You can go to this link. You can start with a question like this one. How should we be training teachers to teach AI? If you turn that into a sprintable challenge, writing a story about it, adding objectives, restrictions, tactical constraints, you fill this in, you press the button, you'll get 1,000 ideas. It's really cool. Or you can set up a talk, we'll do it for free. Now, our promise to you is in 2.5 days, working together with you, we can discuss important strategic issues. We can help you get aligned around those strategic issues. We can build solutions to solve those strategic problems, and we can help you make real decisions. The budget depends upon how many people are involved, whether we're in person, whether we're remote, but some are 20 to 35,000. What's interesting here is beforehand, we have an assessment in place. During the sprint, you can have up to 4 teams working, and those 4 teams can work on different strategic challenges. Afterwards, we put it all together, helping you make sure it happens. Benefits for you, you learn AI fast, you make informed decisions, and most important, you can start taking action. What I'd love to do is 2 things. One is to get feedback. So Sylvain, if you can put the link in for the feedback, but then we can answer a couple of questions. So we have a link here. If you fill it in, you will get some freebies from us. You'll get a copy of my book. You'll get a copy of Sylvain's book. You'll get a link to try our AI for Innovation Toolkit. You get a copy of this talk. There's also a bonus. I met a guy in Vietnam yesterday who's building a new GPT. I don't know how many of you know what a GPT is, but it's actually like a personalized chatbot, which is focused on how do you train professors in different fields to teach AI. We'll give you first access when that's out. You just have to fill it in. Where are we right now? AI is part of the future. We'd like to help you make some proactive decisions for the future. How do you make proactive decisions? You focus on them. You can run a sprint on your own. You don't need us. You just need to get started. But we'd love to work together. You can contact us for a free consultation. And I notice that we're down to 3 minutes left, so we can see who's got questions and where do we go from here.
And just preceding the questions, I'm going to put all the links, like our links, and also the feedback link and the slide link again in the chat here, so we can people can grab that. Let's get some questions.
Benoit, I see little clapping hands. That's good. Yay. Who's got questions? Let's start off this. Olivier, what do you think about this? I saw you smiling sometimes when we're talking about creativity in humans versus AI.
Yes, because I think you put it in the right perspective. in the sense for two things where you're absolutely right. First, this is going to be an assistant. This is something you will still be controlling. Therefore, you should not be scared. You should embrace this future. That's a very brilliant thing. And the other part is when you say, we have to collaborate. This is another means to create collective intelligence. I don't believe in a world where we'll be standing in our corners, each connected to our artificial intelligence. I think it's a fantastic opportunity to work together, especially at the level of a school. You were mentioning deans, you were mentioning teachers. They should now, this is the right time, congregate and start working together and see how they can build a program and do exactly what you said. If you give your student alone, they'll go straight into the wall making mistakes because they will lack domain competency on a domain. They will lack the knowledge the teacher are holding and will hold for a very, very long time. This is why they're teachers, because they've been studying that for 25 years and learn things about it. So I think it's a fantastic moment for education, for people practicing education. And one more time, I really love the metaphor of the little computing machine. Yes, we had that debate 30 years ago. Let's not lose time on that. Let's embrace this future. It's not going to replace anyone. It's a fantastic opportunity to unite and work better and form better students. That's how I view it.
I did the right call out, Olivier. You got the energy. This wasn't pre-planned, by the way. It's exactly.
No, not at all. We just met each other like 2 months ago. But yes, thank you. Glad you like the energy because this is really what you inspired. So glad to send you that back.
So the last thing that I'd suggest to you is think about the real challenge here. It's about leading with expertise. The more expertise you have, the better AI helps. It's not AI is replacing expertise. You have to work together with it. And so
I have a chaining comment to that works really well, Bryan. And following also Olivier. And it falls also after another comment from earlier, from the beginning. This is an opportunity, if done well, to liberate our humanity. Have AI do things that are behind the scenes non-interactive, so we can have more time to be interactive, to be the mentor and the tutor to the student, while leaving much of the busy work with to the AI. And there's a balance to be had, and it's it can allow us and the students in education context to be much better with each other.
Okay, that was it. There was a comment, there was a private comment, but I'd like to share it with you. So one person said, look, these budgets are beyond what we can do with our school. I understand that sometimes. There are poor man's version of sprints. You can learn how to run these things on your own. I'm more than happy if you want to set up a talk with me. I'll explain to you how to do it. Just reach out. My goal here is, of course, to make money, but it's also to make an impact. If you want to reach out to Sylvan, you want to reach out to myself, we can help you make this happen and make it do it right. That was it. That was it, everybody.
Okay, maybe one little detail. Just small detail. I'm also working with AI for corporate world, and there are two little advice you have really to keep in mind. First, you can't do artificial intelligence without data management, real sources. And this is why I appreciate what you said about curation. And then you also have to have a purpose. You have to have a use case. So you can't start saying, okay, let's do artificial intelligence with no data and no plan. That's guaranteed path to failure. But if you have both things, well, then maybe you can come up with something interesting.
Absolutely.
Those wise words to end on. Thank you, everybody. I don't see many of your faces because many of you are black screen, but I hope to see you in the future and reach out to us. Really happy to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks a lot.
Great to see you, Sylvain.
Yes, let's reconnect, Greg.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye.